Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Reno City Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, August 3rd, 2011, 6 p.m. If I can get everybody to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, when you are ready, you can start roll call.
Kevin Weisky.
Here.
Jason Woosley.
Here.
Max Haltom.
Here.
Doug Hoffman.
Here.
Patty Egan. Dennis Romeo. Here. Dagny Stapleton. Here.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is public comment. This item is for either general public comment or for public comment on an action item. If commenting on an action item, please place the agenda item number on the request to speak form. Those request to speak forms are available here on my right, your left, with Michelle. If you need to grab one and fill it out, please do so. If you have already, that's great. Michelle, do we have anybody who wishes to speak under this public comment?
No, I don't have any comment cards.
Thank you. With that, I will close public comment and move on to item number 4 of our agenda, election of officers, to be effective immediately and taking over this evening. First, I will ask for nominations for Vice Chair. Commissioner Woosley.
Yes, Commissioner Woosley, I'd like to nominate Dennis Romeo for Vice Chair.
Thank you. I have a nomination of Commissioner Romeo. Do I have any other nominations for Vice Chair? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I do think you need a motion and then another person to second it. So if you take Commissioner Kaufman as a motion, then
Okay.
you need another person to second it.
That's fine. Thank you, Marilyn. Sorry. So Commissioner Kaufman has a motion. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Haltom would like to second that motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion still carries unanimously. Next will be nomination for chairman. Accept nominations. Commissioner Woosley.
Chair Weisky, I'd like to nominate yourself to go ahead and lead us for one more year.
Thank you, Commissioner
Motion
Woosley.
of Chair. Thank you.
Do I have any other nominations? Do I have a motion? Commissioner Haltom.
Commissioner Haltom would love to second the motion of
Now
Commissioner
I need a motion
Woosley.
before you can second.
I have a motion to approve Commissioner Weisky as Chair.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Woosley.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for your support. Next on our agenda this evening is approval of minutes for July 7th, 2011 meeting. Do I have any corrections, changes? Do I have a motion for approval? Commissioner Kaufman?
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Stapleton?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I think Patty needs to.
Patty, you need to
He wasn't
abstain because
here.
you were not here last month? Okay.
Sorry, I need to.
That's okay. Very good. So 6 with 1 abstention. That would be Commissioner Egan. Next on our agenda is City Council Liaison Report. Nothing? Thank you. Off to item number 7, unfinished business. LDC 11-00055 Mambos. If the applicant's representative will please come forward to the microphone, introduce himself. You'll have 15 minutes to present your project.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Cesar Salmoram. I'm the applicant for Mambo's Nightclub. My plan is to create an upscale nightclub for Latino music. Nowadays, everyone likes or loves salsa or some type of Latino dancing. So my goal is to create a safe atmosphere in a place that is not too close to the downtown area. So thank you for your support. And I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you.
Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. Staff received one email and 2 phone calls in opposition to the proposed use, both related to perceived security issues. The Reno Police Department reviewed the application and it had no such concerns. Police Department wrote condition number 4, addressing concerns with lighting. Should the use be proposed, on-site lighting to enhance security for the effort. But as for the nightclub use itself, the police addressed no concerns with the operation in that location. Planning staff also suggested condition number 5 to ensure that the business facade is improved should the approval be granted. That concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Thank you, Nathan. With that, I will, before I open up public comment, I would like to ask commissioners for any disclosures. I want to disclose that I did receive a couple of emails last month when this was first agendized, but that's all the emails I've had. Commissioner Haltom?
Likewise, I did receive some emails forwarded to me.
Thank you. Commissioner Egan?
I received the same emails.
Thank you. Commissioner Woosley? Commissioner Romeo, I'm sorry.
As did I.
Commissioner Woosley?
As did I.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaufman?
As did I.
Thank you. Okay. Dagny, you weren't here, so I think you got left out. All right. With that, I will open public comment. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak for us on this agenda item?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who has not filled out a request to speak for him who wishes to speak on this agenda item? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions. Commissioner Romeo.
I just have one for the applicant. For the record, do you agree to the conditions put forth on the staff report?
I'm sorry?
Do you agree to the conditions that are put forth on the staff report?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? At this time, I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Woosley.
Thank you, Chair Wyski. Case number LDC 11-00055, Mampos Nightclub. Based on compliance with the Apple findings, I move to approve the special use permit subject to conditions, and I can make the findings.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Egan.
Commissioner Egan, I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck with your project. Next on our agenda this evening, item number 8, public hearings. Any person who has chosen to provide his or her public comment when a public hearing is heard will need to do so, indicate on the request to speak form provided by our secretary. Alternatively, you may provide your comment when item 3, public comment, is heard at the beginning of the meeting, which nobody did, so I'm assuming if you want to discuss anything on the upcoming items, you will do so when we call them up. First on the agenda this evening is LDC's 11-00058, Silver Lake Trailhead and Trail System. If the applicant's representative will please come forward and present their project. We'll have 15 minutes. Michelle, can we dim the lights a little, please?
Excuse me? Good evening. My name is George Georgeson. I'm with CSA Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, which is Washoe County Parks, Washoe County Regional Parks and Open Space. The project is to construct a trail and a trailhead around Silver Lake, and it's bounded mostly by Moya Boulevard. It's going to be on part of the Silver Lake. Silver Lake is located, as you can see, in this area. The property is this area here, which is owned by Washoe County Parks. The trailhead is going to be on the east side next to Moya Boulevard, and what's going to be there is a small 10-space parking lot, a kiosk, picnic table, and a small loop trail, which you can barely see on this, which goes around here. That'll be, part of that will be phase 1. Phase 2 will be the north area, which is about close to about 1.7 miles, and it stops right here, right at the end of this. This is private property here. This is Washoe County Parks property. The second phase is going to be, the third phase is going to be on the south end, and it stops right here. All this is private property in here. And the trail is going to be a dirt trail. It's not going to be paved. It's not going to have gravel, except the gravel is going to be in this loop trail right here. The parking lot is going to be the last thing we're going to build on it, mainly because Washoe County Parks doesn't have the money to do it right now, and it's going to be phased out in 4 phases. And it's also going to, parking lots in the city of Reno also require landscaping. And Washoe County Parks doesn't have any water rights, nor does it have the money to purchase, nor does it want to put any landscaping in, but we have to eventually. And we have to pave the parking lot. And Washoe County Parks does not have the money to pave the parking lot. That's why it's phased out over almost a 10-year period. So with that, that's just about the entire project. The trail is going to be a dirt trail. It's not going to be anything else. Most of it probably is in the phases, is, especially on the north end over here, it's probably going to be done by volunteers. And, get people out there and see if they want to, remove some vegetation and move a little bit of dirt around, and that's about it. It's only going to be about 4 feet wide. So that's about it. Any
George,
questions?
thank you.
You're welcome.
If we have any questions, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staff?
Good evening, Vern Close, Senior Planner. I don't have much to add to this. There are no unusual conditions related to this. I would like to add, though, that this property right here is in for PUD, and they're going to dedicate their portion of the Silver Lake to the Nature Conservancy, and so eventually there's going to be a loop trail around most of Silver Lake, so this is the first portion of that. I'd just like to clarify that. Staff is recommending approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vern.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will open public comment. I have a request to speak form from Jennifer Budge, only if requested. And fellow commissioners, that's because she is with Washoe County Regional Parks and Open Space, and she is here to answer any questions that we may have of her. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under public comment? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions. Commissioner Woosley?
I do have a question for Mrs. Budge.
For who? Oh, for Ms. Budge, okay.
So I assume that you went and discussed it with in the Ward 4, NAB, CAB, with everybody in the area, and just was wondering if you had any or much feedback on trail location and any issues with where it was pathed.
Thank you, Commissioner. Jennifer Budge, Park Planner, Washoe County Regional Parks and Open Space. We did go to the North Valley CAB. We did not go to the North Valley NAB. They don't have quorum, so they haven't been meeting. We did get written feedback from them, and they were in support of the project. This is part of a much larger project, as the planner spoke of, that actually it's the Nevada Land Conservancy is acquiring the south and the east portion of the lake, and it's also in the open space and greenways plan. So we're working with Nevada Land Conservancy to make that vision happen. So this is, one phase of a much larger picture with the trail all the way around the lake. The CAB was actually very excited about the project. We're happy to see that we're trying to preserve some habitat out there and provide some new trails and access out there. They've had a huge problem with off-road vehicles. Some of what we're putting in is actually mitigating some of those issues. And it's a pretty simple project, but they were in support of it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Commissioner
I have a
Egan.
quick question. You mentioned phase 1 and phase 2 are just going to be each of the separate trailheads. Phase 3 is the parking lot. Are phase 1 and 2 going to be in use before there's adequate parking to the project, or do people park off-site?
Phase 1 will be the initial part of the trailhead. There's adequate parking on the roadway. I don't know if you've driven down that road, but it's
kinda
much
hard to
wider
tell
than it
where-
needs to be, and there's ample space to do that. We'll actually have a clearing area where people will be able to park at. We're doing the small loop trail first, and then we plan actually this fall to begin on phase 2, hopefully just working with volunteers and to begin that north trail connection. So right now, the small loop trail will take you to something called Maxine's Marsh, and it's a nice little overlook, and we're going to put interpretive panels and some education elements out there. And that will be done this fall with a Recreation Trail Program grant. And that's how we're funding the first phase.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Motion? Commissioner Halton.
Chairman. Commissioner Halton. In the case of LDC 11-00058, Silver Lake Trailhead and Trail System, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the special use permit subject to conditions.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Woosley?
I'd like to second that. I can flank the findings.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Good luck with your project. Next on our agenda, LDC 11-00059, Kefren Pet Services. If the applicant's representative will please come forward. You will have 15 minutes to describe your project to us.
Can we do disclosures?
Yes, we can do disclosures first. Hold on one second.
Sure.
We'll start with you, Commissioner Kaufman.
I've received numerous emails on this project.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Woosley,
As well, I've received numerous emails.
as well as I, Commissioner Weisky, Commissioner Romeo.
As well as I.
Thank you, Commissioner Stapleton.
I received numerous emails, and I had 2 face-to-face conversations with concerned citizens.
Thank you. Commissioner Egan.
I also received numerous emails. I also am a part owner in a property approximately 2 blocks away. However, after discussing it with legal, I think I can weigh in fairly.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Halton.
I did also receive numerous emails.
Thank you very much. Disclosures are done. Begin. Introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Ryan Kohler. I'm the General Manager of Cofran Services. I'm a local Nevada resident, and for over 30 years, our family has been providing pet cremation services throughout the area. We're here proposing a service to privately cremate small pets at 119 Bell Street. This is a small, intimate, private pet crematorium specifically designed to individuals who have lost their pet and are choosing a dignified service for their pet in a cremation. Due to the high level of personal commitment with the pet owner and the pet, we only expect around 4 to 6 pet cremations to occur per day. We are proposing Bell Street because it is respectfully beautiful. We have the ability not only to preserve this location, but enhance it with site improvements, architectural development, and landscaping. Pet owners have the same love and affection for their pet as one would for their family member. Often, a pet is considered a member of the family. When a pet owner has lost their beloved pet, they want to take their pet to a cremation facility that is clean, dignified, and honorable. People want to take their pets to an established business, something that has a clean atmosphere and a respectable ambiance. Pet owners don't want to drop off their pets in an industrial park. People desire the same respect for their pets as they do for their family members. And in turn, people don't want to take their family members to an industrial park to have them cremated. People want to take their family members to places like Sierra Memorial Service, O'Brien, Rogers, and Crosby's Funeral Home, or Walton's Funeral Home, all of which are in the community and are known for providing these services. These are well-established providers of the family needs, and their locations are familiar to the area. These businesses are well reflected in the neighborhood. We are installing 2 small animal crematoriums. These can handle only a small number of intimate private cremations. This facility is not designed for large-scale animals. We cannot cremate anything over a dog or a cat, nor can we do mass cremations or high volume. Again, this is tailored to someone who wants a dignified pet cremation and in some instances watch their pet being cremated. We are utilizing the most modern, efficient technology to date. These crematoriums are being purchased through the largest national and international company in the world who manufactures pet cremations. These are machines that have primary burners, secondary burners, air scrubbers, digital monitorization, and this ensures that there is no smoke, no odor, and no emissions above what is required by air quality. We are doing nothing that would disrupt the people's enjoyment of this neighborhood. Of course, these cremation units meet all the federal, state, local, and county air quality requirements. We are a reputable company that has been in business for over 30 years. We have never once had any of our permits suspended or revoked for any violation regarding odor, emissions, or control violations. We are proud to run a clean and respectable business. We will provide an excellent service to the local community, and we will be a good neighbor. I love this neighborhood. I grew up less than a mile away. I have every intention of being a good neighbor, and I appreciate the specific architecture of Bell Street, the Victorian style. And as you will see with Jeff Frame, our architect, we went to great lengths in order to preserve that integrity of the neighborhood. So for now, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff to describe how we accomplished that.
Thank you, Ryan.
For the record, Jeff Frame, architect. I think I just kind of run through the design, starting with the site first. There we go. This scoot. All righty. The existing house.
Michelle, hold on one second, Jeff. Michelle, can we dim some lights, please? Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. The existing house is pretty much right in here. The existing street, Bell Street out here, existing sidewalks are all existing to remain. The addition of the crematorium is this piece back in here, off the back, and a new parking lot. There's no parking right now for the existing building. Be all accessed off the alley. We are allowed 2 parking spaces because of the street frontage up front. We're going to redo the landscaping. We got some kind of contemplative gardens in here, just a kind of a calming, soothing experience. If you go to the inside, we're keeping the existing rooms pretty much the layout they are. We have a reception and retail open to the public, a private waiting room. So if you're there to watch or have your pet cremated, you have a private room that you're not kind of exposed to the general public coming in for buying urns and memorials. We also have a serenity waiting room where it's kind of that pre-room that you would sit in and wait until you go into the little view room. Need an employee area. He's going to, Ryan didn't touch on this, he's going to be hiring about half a dozen full-time people to work in this place. So, and then the back, the addition is the crematorium. Now, when you look at the architect, one other thing that we're going to do, this this building doesn't have any ADA access. So it's been used as a commercial facility for I don't know how many years. We're providing the required ADA access on a ramp on the north. We are going to keep the existing porch intact. It's kind of looking at the front, kind of a somewhat aerial view. You have the existing house here, and then the addition in the back. Same roof slope, same materials, same siding. Again, the landscape enhancements Ryan kind of briefly spoke about up front, kind of more interpretive type garden. The porch remains. We're leaving the detail of we'll call it the window vent up above. When you look at the back, the architecture stays the same. And typical, true to the historical context of houses like this, parking was always in the back. That's where we have the two roll-up garage doors. This is basically what these are for, is for when the crematoriums are brought to the site. We have to way to put them in the building. These things are a little bit bigger than a door. So, you know, in order to instead of just putting a blank old door back there, we decided to put two garage doors back there. And then the 3 parking spaces. We don't have a loading zone because we don't need one. It's a private crematorium for private use. Right now, when you look at the back of the building, this is what we see. You know, we have an old chimney here. We're going to replicate that here. That's going to hide the exhaust flues from the new cremation units. Another thing we see here that's, I want to know how this got through, is we got a mechanical unit out here. I mean, this is inappropriate as all get out. That's never been screened for a commercial building. I mean, you know, I'd love the plan check comments on that one. So that's kind of, I mean, when you talk about, you know, respecting the historical aspect in the architecture of the building, it looks like what we wanted it to look like when we first talked to Ryan is, we want to make sure that this looks like it's always been there. So, and that, I'll turn it over to Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ken McKenna.
Ken, can I get you to speak in the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
Thank you.
Sounds better.
Yes.
My name is Ken McKenna, and I'm the attorney for the applicant. My law office is about 2 doors away from this on the corner of Bell and First. So I first became aware of this project when there was a neighbor who was kind of sending around a petition, if you will, against it, and had made a flyer and some points against it. And right away, I wasn't for being against it. That was before I got involved as legal counsel. So now I am kind of wearing 2 hats. As a neighbor, I don't have any problem with this facility. The more I've learned about it now as their attorney and talked to the manufacturer of the facility, seen the architectural plans, got to spend some time with Ryan, understood about his family and their long history in this business, I have absolutely no qualms, either as a neighbor or in representing them as to be a good person to allow to be in this neighborhood with this facility. Now, I do realize there's been some misconceptions, and I'm guessing that's what's come in your emails. I got the same information before I became their attorney as probably what you got, and you have to appreciate, you know, just the nature of saying, you know, crematorium. We all have potential for our minds going off on tangents. Smoke, maybe a terrible smell, pollutants that could be health hazards. These are things you could imagine in your mind if you didn't know better. And what I appreciated about the staff report in this case was they dealt with all of those concerns and those issues, and they have basically debunked all of them. Now, that doesn't mean those emotions might still exist, and I'm certain, I know there are speakers here tonight that may end up saying things that aren't factual but are emotional. And I certainly appreciate that. You appreciate it. The business you're in, the business I'm in, you know, not everything is black and white, not everything is just facts. But I am here to say on behalf of the applicant that legally speaking, there is no persuasive evidence or argument against this project. Non-polluting, no smoke, no odors, architecturally appropriate. They've shown such respect for this neighborhood and what the architectural plans are going to be. Very low impact in terms of traffic or people coming. It's an intimate setup, as you heard, 4, 5, 6 possible clients a day in a very involved service that is designed and intimate for them. The overall effect on the neighborhood, we have 2 mortuaries, one a crematorium that is across the street from a restaurant that's been there for years and there's never been an issue. We have the headstone company directly across the street from this. So it isn't as though the neighborhood is suddenly getting a business that deals in this area. This neighborhood has had this type of business for years and years and years and not been a problem for anybody in the neighborhood. This additional business, which is very small scale and architecturally going to be compatible with the neighborhood, is going to have way less impact, if any, than those other bigger, more commercial-looking entities are. If you're familiar with the funeral homes in that area, that's what they look like. They look more like office buildings, and they've got several garage doors and parking lots and the hearses parked out back, etc. So again, I do appreciate some of my neighbors have concern, and I think that, is just an emotional reaction. If you look at the staff report, they've gone through all of this. It meets all the criteria. This is not going to have any negative impact on the neighborhood. It can't, and it should be approved. I'm going to go ahead, if I may. I'm not sure the procedure, if I could reserve the last 3 minutes I have for rebuttal, I'd appreciate that.
I will allow that, Ken. Thank you. Michelle, would you please stop the clock and let's reserve 3:21 for rebuttal, should Mr. McKenna feel it's necessary. Staff, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. I think most of you are aware, in 2000. First, let me start off. We received 19 emails in opposition, 1 in support to the proposed use, all of which have been forwarded to you for your review. 3 of which were handed out this evening. We received them late. As most of you are aware, in 2007, the Planning Commission and the City Council revisited crematoriums. And where they're appropriately located. This was in light of recent technologies in the industry. Specifically, that opened as permitted uses in the Wells Avenue and California districts of the Downtown Regional Center Plan. But generally, they're allowed in commercial and mixed-use districts. This particular site is located in the Keystone District of the Downtown Regional Center. It's always been a permitted use with a special use permit. So that 2007 update of code really didn't affect this. This has always been a use that was allowed in this district with a special use permit. Granting of the special use permit required that the applicable findings can be made, of course. Should the Planning Commission approve the permit, there are several means to ensure that there are no visible or audible indications of the operation. Part of the update was defining crematorium uses, which is explicit, and it's much more stringent than the counties, the Washoe County Air Quality Control Board, their qualifications for what's appropriate for this. The City of Reno says none. The basic code, if a special use permit is allowed, that code enforcement could pursue is that there would be no indication, no visible, audible, or odor of the use. So the recourse, if this permit is granted as code enforcement, which could be revocation of the special use permit and a revocation of a business license if it were ever an issue. I want to address also the City Master Plan's historic plan element identifying the Pounding Conservation District. This document explicitly states that the designation does not impose on property owners any regulatory requirements other than those currently required through zoning. Zoning allows it with the special use permit. The document also doesn't identify any leading policies for preferred types of use. It identifies the area as one for education, one talking about streetscape improvements and that sort of thing. But as far as identifying appropriate land uses or inappropriate land use specific to the Pounding Addition, it doesn't address that. And so we're dealing with the Downtown Regional Center Plan with the way it addresses the Keystone District. and the underlying zoning. So I am sure that there are plenty of speakers eager to get your attention this evening. I'll be available for any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Nathan. With that, I would like to open public comment and ask my vice chair to read the following request to speak forms that were filled out by the public who asked not to speak but would like their position read into the minutes.
Okay, this is from Pat Shea, 7115 Silver Lane, Reno. Could staff characterize a comparable business reference in the staff report? How does this business significantly differ from those businesses? She is in opposition, he or she. Megan Fielder, a neighbor, is in favor. I think having this business in the district will increase property values. Sheila O'Brien, I do not wish to make a statement, but I am in opposition. Bernard Harrison, I do not wish to make a statement, but I am in opposition. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romeo. Next, I have a group of people who would like to make a statement. You will have 3 minutes. Please come up to the microphone after I've called your name and introduce yourself for the record. And at that time, the clock will start. Kim O'Reilly. And following Kim will be Allison Sagewin.
Okay. Hi. I am not opposed to the pet service that is being offered here. I am opposed to the crematorium being placed in the historical district, the Ponding Historical District. Also that it's 1 block from the river, and I know they say there's no smell, no odor. I've talked with people who have been near pet crematoriums, and there has been a problem with that. There's a reason why he referred to the industrial section to where the pet crematorium has been that they currently have, and I don't see why that can't stay there. They could even use this as storefront for grieving owners of pets and have the crematorium stay on North Wells. Also, other crematorium that is in existence for pets is on Longley off of the industrial section as well. It does not belong in a residential area, historical area, 1 block from the river. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Allison Sagewin. Following Allison will be Billy Shea.
Hi, I'm Allison, and the emotion you'll hear is stage fright. So just bear with me. So my name is Allison Sagewin, and I have a business practice that is comprised of health services that include massage, movement coaching, fitness, and ergonomics. My practice is at 129 Bell, and I'll be doing business there. I've been doing business there with 3 other therapists for 7 years at this location. My location is next door to the proposed crematorium. Let me state this clearly in the beginning. I am not opposed to the business. I have used cremation several times for my beloved pets. I am opposed to the incinerator location. On the City of Reno website, the City of Reno goals for the vision of community reads, redevelopment, revitalize downtown Reno as the economic, civic, and cultural community. This proposed special use permit is not in alignment with the Pounding Conservation Historical District. Allowing the incinerators to the neighborhood does not keep in integrity and vision with the city's goals for the community of the historical Pounding Conservation District. And I say vision from the city. I personally, as have my neighbors, put considerable effort and money into the area in cooperation with the city to make improvements and clean it up, including moving the homeless out of our parks and off my porches, removing trash and neighborhood watch. Why then bring in incinerators, probable hazardous waste, which I'll talk about in a moment. You say that this is the Keystone Avenue district is low intensity business. The intensity is determined by vehicular trip generation and compatibility with the residential development. The location proposed by the applicant has single-family homes across the street, an open-air cafe 2 doors down, a health service next door. Within 1 block, there are apartments, restaurants, shopping, and river activities that cater to visitors as well as locals. Here's where I really feel strongly. In the vision for the community, it reads safety. It promotes safety of the community and the feeling of security among citizens and visitors. People are more health conscious these days. They can say that there are no visible emissions and they are odorless, and the applicant are within the guidelines of the health codes. But just because you can't see it and you can't smell it doesn't mean the particulates aren't present. There are legal emissions, just like on the muffler of my car, but I wouldn't want to sit behind it while my car is running day after day to see if I'm affected. In the SUP, the special use permit, there's a question. Will the proposed use generate hazardous waste? No one is speaking of the biohazard of the dead corpses being brought into the building. It is bio-waste. Just like a needle in a bio-waste container, the number of cremations a day would most likely exceed the human crematorium. To mention, there's a lot of dog owners that walk by. I know my time is up here, but I would like to say the common response to the people I have talked to is why this location, why so close to the river, where we are recreating, eating, and shopping. Please build the incinerators in more appropriate location, one that doesn't create so much conflict with the city's vision and the citizens' concern for the historical river district. I would like to say one more thing, if I may.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up, please.
Okay. The Co-Frang Company business has existing location with the incinerators in North Reno, 1705 North Wells. I would welcome the retail storefront location on Bell Street for their patrons to pick up their beloved pets. I do not welcome, and I am opposed to the crematorium. And it is an inappropriate location. There are other options.
Thank you. Next is Billy Shea. After Billy will be Robert Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Billy Shea.
Billy, can I ask you to speak right into that microphone? Thank you.
Or louder.
Thank you.
I've been listening to the people in favor of this and kind of taking a few notes. Some of the things that I heard was that they're going to service only 5 animals a day, 5 days a week. That's approximately 25 animals a week times maybe, $200 per cremation. That's salary, total gross net profit of, or not profit, but total gross of about $200,000 a year. With that, they propose to do building improvements, purchase of equipment, and I think these incinerators are very expensive. Their debt load, I would guess, to be about $40,000 a year. 6 employees with 3 parking places and 2 street parking places doesn't quite come up to the math that they were giving. But 6 staffers at an average $20,000 a year salary would equate to something like $150,000 a year that they're spending. I come up to a number of $190,000 before they've paid their taxes and earnings before income and taxes. And I'm wondering if the number 5 is a real number. I think that's a number that they're proposing to make it sound good. In reality, these incinerators can handle up to 400 animals a day. And I think that you giving them the right to do as many as they want, it could be that much. The other thing that I'm very concerned about, I am a neighbor. I work right next door with Allison. I'm a massage therapist. When you look at their plot plan, the building that they show is approximately 12 feet from our building, and they plan on putting a pathway and a ramp and an entrance and egress on that side of the building. So grieving people are going to be walking right by my window to get into the building. I'm trying to deal with people who want to relax and not deal with stress, and they're having to look out the window at that kind of stress. Yes, I think that a crematorium is a great idea in a commercial setting or close to a cemetery. It's not a bad business use in Nevada, and we certainly do need that. But we really need to look at how it affects the neighbors. They obviously are going to be doing more gross dollars than I do, and I don't pay that much taxes to either Reno or to the federal government, but I am a concerned user in business, and this does really affect my business. I've already informed my friends that if this goes in, I will be moving. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Robert Harrelson. After Robert will be Ryan Kohler.
Good evening. I'm the owner of 129 Bell Street, the property that's adjacent to the proposed crematorium. And I am in opposition of the use. And I am opposed for several reasons. The first is that my tenants are expressing to me concerns about their business and how this is going to affect them. As you just heard from this previous speaker, she's no longer going to be able to practice her profession in the building because of this new use. Other tenants who have been there for 7, 8 years and are well-respected health practitioners are feeling that this is not going to be an environment that's going to be conducive to them doing their work. This is of great concern to me. The second issue is parking. The rear of the proposed building historically has been used as parking. They're removing 1,280 square feet of area that historically has been parking for the building. In the summer months, there are substantial numbers of people who park on the street and walk down to the River Park area and enjoy that. And so we do have a parking problem. In the rear of my building, I have an extensive parking lot. The other building historically has had that as well. So that concerns me, and I see that as an adverse issue for my tenants. Also, my building is a Queen Anne. I don't know, you can see it here. It was featured in the Historical Society. I've spent considerable resources, financial, emotional, labor, this is a labor of love, to restore this building. I think it's a beautiful building. And it really breaks my heart to end up sandwiched between a mortuary and a crematorium. This building deserves better. So in conclusion, also one other point I'd like to make is in the Neighborhood Advisory Board, Jeff Hollingsworth made a comment, and his comment was, if there is not substantial support of the neighborhood, then this project should not go forward. I would hopefully, I would be hopeful that you would be able to see the value in this property and that this use permit could be and would be denied. Thank you very much for the consideration.
Thank you, Robert. Ryan, I realize that you've got the first 15 minutes, so thank you for filling out the card, though. Next and final is Drew, and I believe it's Lawton. I hope I didn't mispronounce that last name.
You got it. Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Lawton, and I am a business owner and property owner on the 100 block of Bell Street. I am in favor of this project as that house has been sitting there for a number of years vacant, and it will be nice to see a quality project at a quality business that's been in town for some time, 30-plus years, the Cofran Company. I am also in the funeral industry. I am familiar with the equipment that they're proposing to use and the stringent guidelines that will be imposed by air quality. I'm also happy to see the lengths they've gone to with architecture to make it blend in with the neighborhood so that it looks like it is a chimney coming out of the back of a building. So if anyone drives by, unless you're going to be using their services, I feel from an exterior standpoint you wouldn't really know what is back there. And that is the goal they're doing and trying to preserve the neighborhood. And I feel it's going to be nice to have someone else down there occupying that space, and I feel it will add value to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are all the requests to speak forms I have. Is there anyone else here this evening who has not filled out a request to speak form who wishes to speak? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment. Mr. McKenna, I will ask you to come back up. I will give you your 3 minutes and 21 seconds. It's yours.
Can I have a green light, a yellow light, and a red light? I feel more at home.
Good.
Again, there certainly can be emotion involved anytime a business that is a little unusual or, not the run-of-the-mill business that wants to move into any neighborhood. And you can see that the concern, for the most part, is the neighbor, the building right next door, both the tenants and the landlord. I respect their concerns, but I think their fears are overblown and are not going to come to fruition. This business is not going to disrupt their business. It is not going to affect their therapeutic clients. They are already sharing a property line with a big industrial mortuary. So the people that are coming in there are seeing a human funeral service home when they walk up those stairs. A pet crematorium next door that they're not even going to realize is a crematorium because it doesn't look like one. It looks like a beautiful Victorian building that is well landscaped and offers pet services, is not going to cause them additional stress and affect their ability to get their therapeutic care. I made the note, so I'm going to say it. I think my building, Ken McKenna, attorney across the street, probably causes them more stress, just having to see that, than this pet crematorium is going to cause them. I know, I hear that, so I'm sure it's true. Again, I don't want to be disrespectful to their concerns, but I think they've created false fears in their own minds. I mean, the idea of, if this gets approved, I'm going to stop my business before you even experiment and see the impact, tells you that that's not a logical thing to do. You know, you wait and see if it's going to affect your business. And you can see from what they're doing architecturally, the low-key nature of it, the individual service of it. This is not even going to be something people are aware of unless they're actually utilizing the service. Compare that with the 4 garage doors, the black cars, and the, what do they call them when they all proceed to the procession to the cemetery that occurs on a regular basis from her neighbor to the north. So I just am concerned that they're so fearful of this. I wish they'd write it out, and I think they'll find out it's not going to be a problem for them. There's been a misconception, and I didn't address it initially as one of the misconceptions, but it came up with a couple of the speakers. The operator of this business does not have an incineration facility here in Reno. What they've done in the past, they have a family business in Sacramento that has the incinerator. They work with veterinarians who deal with the clients that have a pet, and they arrange through the veterinarian, and they pick the pets up. They actually transport them to Sacramento and then bring back the remains in the appropriate containers, and the pet owners pick those up from their veterinarian. There's 2 parts to that. We all know winters in Reno, and going up and over that hill can cause delays.
Mr. McKenna, I'd like to ask you to wrap it up, please.
I will. So they do want to have a local facility. In addition to that, this is what you'd call a retail facility. Instead of just having your vet do the service for you, you actually get to participate and be part of it and treat it more as a family member. So this is quite an asset to Reno that Reno's never had before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, I will bring it back to the commission for questions. Commissioner Haltom, I'll start with you.
Commissioner Haltom, I guess I would like to start with Ryan, if you have a moment. So I'll be honest, I had the same sort of reaction a lot of folks had, which was frankly sort of, ooh, gross. And I think you've answered most of my questions regarding smoke, smell, disruption, site. So I wanted to get to a little bit more detailed questions about process and procedure here. So I just heard something that was slightly contradictory from your introductory remarks from Mr. McKenna. So can you clarify how many of these private, prearranged cremations do you really anticipate?
Well, we anticipate, like I said, 4 to 6 private cremations in each one of the 2 crematoriums. This would be a maximum of approximately 12 cremations per day. A lot of these are made by appointment, so it depends. You can't book 2 appointments at the same time. This is a very intimate, private experience for the pet owner, and that requires a lot of time and care, and it's not designed for a large-scale mass cremation facility.
Okay.
If we're interested in that, we have the Humane Society and other crematoriums that can do that. There's probably not one crematorium in the world that can do 400 animals per day. And specifically, our business model service plan is tailored to the individual pet owner and to perform that cremation.
Understood. Now, will you also be receiving decedent pets from veterinarians that are also contracting with your service just for that? Is that all? Will that sort of service still be in place at this facility?
For only those who wish to have a true private cremation. A lot of our clients elect to have what's called a group cremation or a communal cremation. It's not where you get your ashes back and people would just like to perform those cremations. Those will still be done at our facility in Sacramento. There's no need for that here. Again, this is specifically designed to the pet owner who wants to participate with that individual cremation.
Understood. What other services will you provide at this facility other than cremation? I think you briefly mentioned urns or other things.
Yeah, a lot of people like to have their ashes in different urns, metal urns or a wood box that they want engraved. And so we'll have a retail center for pet owners to put those things in. We also offer like a paw print. So if your pet passes away and you want a paw print, we literally take the paw of your pet and put it into a clay urn and paint it for you. So that's something, those additional products that aren't actually related to a cremation that a lot of pet owners elect to do with their beloved one.
Okay, and I've got my little litany of questions here, and it'll probably exhaust all of yours. I apologize, Mr. Chair. I find that when my pets have died, it's never been at a convenient time. So
right.
Explain to me if after hours someone's pet passes, and how does that all work? Do you guys take receipt of a decedent pet after hours and store the pet, or is the owner sort of obligated to deal with that until such time, or do they take it to the all-night vet, or how does it typically work? I'm trying to understand sort of your hours of operation for both your facility in terms of receiving pets and also doing viewings and so forth. And also, do you have any limitation on the hours during which the cremations can occur?
We are proposing cremations from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Animals do not pass from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Right.
And we're a service that's available 24/7 for pickup of your animal. And we will store that in a cooled climate room at our office at 1705 North Wells is where that animal would be stored, because if the pet owner wants to view the cremation and be a part of it, then they will need to attend by appointment Monday through Friday for that to occur. We will not be storing animals on Bell Street. It's not designed for that type of facility, and so we will store it off-site from Bell Street.
Okay, so I'll be blunt. I mean, I think everybody's got this vision of somebody walking down the street with their Labrador covered in a blanket, you know, that they've had to park 2 blocks away and they're walking around from the river up to your place to deliver their decedent pet. Is that a reality? Will that occur, or how did?
It's really not. I mean, it's operated the same way it is with the human cremation. I mean, we don't see humans being drugged up and dragged into Walton's funeral home. They're generally handled in a discreet manner. We elect to pick up the pet at the pet owner's house. That's a free service. They're not required to drive it to us. And when that occurs, then the animal is placed in a body bag and would be brought into the facility discreetly and privately.
Does that include, so will you be able to take the delivery vehicle right into the garage in the back, or unload it into that garage space?
Into the garage,
unit?
yeah. You will not see us unloading pets, carrying pets in the front door or in the back door. No, it's not a respectable way to handle an animal.
Okay, and then you also mentioned the size of the pets. So if the 220-pound Newfoundland passes away, I mean, that's as big or bigger than me. Is that the sort of animal that you could field in this facility, or is that something you have to turn away?
You could do an animal probably close to 200 pounds in these crematoriums. You could not do a horse or a goat, which some people want cremated. No, it's geared towards small pets and cats and birds.
Okay, you've answered all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Haltom. Commissioner Romeo.
I just have one question.
Sure.
I just want it clarified. Your hours of business at that facility are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. only?
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday?
Yes.
So anything outside those hours would be handled somewhere off-site, storage or whatever you're talking
That's
about?
correct, yeah. We are available to answer the phone 24 hours a day, and we will pick up your pet if it were to be on a Saturday, and we'll move that to a cold storage away from Bell Street. It's just no room for that, and it's not designed for that type of facility.
Okay, fine. Nathan, I have a couple questions for you, please. Thank you. Just for clarification, these crematoriums are allowed in ICCC and MU with a special use permit. Am I correct in that assumption?
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. There's no special use permit needed for the industrial uses. They're allowed in the AC, the CC, and all the MUs with the special use permit.
With a special use permit. Okay, and the finding that I've perceived as being the most in question here would be finding F regarding creation of adverse environmental impacts, smoke, noise, glare, dust, etc. Are we using the RMC 18.02.202 to guarantee that there is enforcement on that?
If that's the section specifically relating to crematoriums rather than just the general nuisance standards, then yes, that's the section.
And I believe that's what
Yeah.
we were talking about back
Yeah.
in 2007 when we tightened this up.
Which says no visible or audible.
No visible. Okay. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Egan.
I have a question for Ryan. Mr. McKenna mentioned that you no longer have an incinerator, or you don't have an incinerator at North Wells.
Correct.
You used to have an incinerator at Wells, didn't you?
Never.
North Wells?
No.
Okay. Can you explain to me for the crematoriums that do exist, just in a couple of sentences, how the technologies for this new unit that you guys are installing is going to be different from something else that may pass code but be antiquated, where people rightly have these concerns that they're voicing?
Are you saying describe the older technology versus the? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah. So, is it an assumption that there are crematoriums that do emit some smells still that meet code requirements that may be antiquated?
I know that the older cremation units just consisted of a primary burner, and as technology developed and restrictions got more stringent, the manufacturers of the cremation units developed a second primary burner, and that is to eliminate odors, smoke, and emissions below the stringent requirements. And so that's something that's standard today, but something that may have been installed in Reno 15 or 20 years ago, I can't say have secondary burners. Something else that's new in the industry is all the emissions are digitally monitored. So instead of an operator having to make adjustments on the own, the crematorium is self-tuning in order to make any fine adjustments necessary during the cremation process.
Okay. So if, just kind of in short, if I were standing with these new units, if I were standing directly above the exhaust, is there any possibility that I would smell anything?
Well, I can't say. I've never stood right above an exhaust. It is a combustion, just like your hot water heater in your house is combustion, or your lawnmower is combustion, your car is. You're not getting odor from the actual burning of the pet. It is just a natural combustion with natural gas. So if you were to put, your nose above a hot water heater or a lawnmower, you're going to have an odor related to that. Are you going to be smelling flesh and pets burning? No.
Okay. That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Stapleton.
Yeah, I have a question for Nathan. I think Ryan answered most of my questions. In terms of the historical district, you went over this before. I appreciate that. And Just specifically, are there any regulations at all, excuse me, associated with the Poundings? This is the Poundings district. And could you just explain?
Nathan
there's any
Gilbert,
regulations.
Associate Planner. If you read the historic plan, it is explicit that it is non-regulatory. It was created to identify the area and to get some motion going, but it has 3 lines that are dedicated explaining that it is a non-regulatory district. That's not its intention.
So just primarily to acknowledge the value of the historic homes and historic attributes.
That's correct.
Okay. And then I have a second question. I don't know who can answer this, but a few people have mentioned that there is another crematorium in the immediate area. How many are there, and where are they, and of what type, human or animal?
Almost 700 feet northwest of the site is an extension of the Walton's Crematory.
Okay.
And speaking with staff from Washoe County Air Quality, that's an older unit, and they are in the process of updating their units. That's a human crematorium, and a higher volume one is what was indicated to me that's being updated. So this would have obviously a larger and more sophisticated technology, but a similar, it's a new product, a new cremation facility. But there is an existing one there that's also in the Pounding Historic District where they do human cremations, and we've already heard that the headstone company that's on Bell Street and the existing mortuary.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Commissioner Woosley.
Thank you, Chair Weisky. A question for the applicant. With the side access being added for the ADA access, do you see that as your main exit out of the building, or is that only going to be used sometimes when you have someone disabled?
To clarify then, is the ADH our main entrance and exit? Is that what you're
Yes,
asking?
I mean,
Yeah.
specifically the exit.
No, the main entrance and exit is from the front of the building for people coming in for retail. We will not accept animals through the front door of this property. If you have a pet that you would like us to cremate, you will pull in the alley access and back up to our roll-up door. We will offload your animal that way. The ADH access is for entrance into the retail facility. And entrance and access for ADA. So there's the primary entrance for the retail and in and out of the front door.
And where I'm going with this question is if your main exit after you've performed service and they're leaving the building, you don't foresee that being your main exit unless it's required or needed?
Well, there'll be 2 main, there's an exit that's there and the exit from the front door. So it depends on the client. If the client has viewed their pet cremation and wants to move to a retail center and begin to look at some urns and whatnot, then I would assume they would leave through the front door. If somebody would want to leave through the side, there's also that option. If we need to direct entrance and exits that aren't ADA, then we can certainly do that.
Okay, thank you. And also one more question about that. So have you been around this new equipment at all, just by chance? I know you were talking about earlier, rarely are we above an exhaust fan, but have you seen or been around some of this equipment while it's been working?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a family business, and this is what I do. I've been around cremation facilities on the West Coast. I've been through cremation facilities in Chicago. I've seen these units in Chicago. I've seen these units operate and have operated them myself at our Sacramento facility. This is what I know. This is what I do. I don't know anything else besides pet cremations. So I have handled them. I've seen the every element of this.
Great, thank you.
You're
Staff,
welcome.
please. So following up on that question, obviously if neighbors or passerbys did smell an odor that was beyond what you would think a normal combustion, if you could even smell that, that would normally be a code enforcement issue, correct?
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. Yes, that would be a code enforcement issue. A citizen could call 334-INFO, Reno Direct, and lodge a complaint. It can be done anonymously.
Gotcha. And just for clarification, the other crematorium is in the same Keystone District. No other rules apply or less rules apply for the others in the area.
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. Yeah, it's in the Pounding District, also the Downtown Reno Regional Center Keystone District. It's an old use, so I don't know. I couldn't find any records of a special use permit or anything of that nature. It's an established use, but there is an existing the same zoning districts.
Thank you.
Nathan, don't sit down yet. Real quickly, we've got a cremation facility within 700 feet. We know exactly where it is, the name of it. How many others are there in town? Are there any that are adjacent to or next to or across the street from residential use? Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. There are 8 licensed crematoriums in the city of Reno. This is based on Washoe County's permitting of the operations. We have one, an animal hospital on Virginia Street and Plum. That's in the mixed use South Virginia Transit Corridor. As a part of that existing animal hospital on a primary intersection. There's the Sierra Crematorium. That's the one we had discussed. It's a human crematorium in the mixed-use downtown Reno Regional Center Keystone District. We have Masonic Memorial Gardens and Mountain View Cemetery in our 4th Street mixed-use zoning district. We have the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority operating one in the mixed-use airport district. And then we have 2 located in industrial commercial zoning districts and a county-operated one in a public facility zone.
Okay, thank you. Do you know of any of the Reno locations that have received citations for odors, fumes? I'm looking at item F on our findings because that's what we have to make our decision on is based upon the findings A through H. Anything that could be considered environmental impacts, adverse environmental impacts, fumes, pollution, odor. Are there any citations that you're aware of in the last 5 years?
I had asked about one specifically, the one near this site. I asked Washoe County staff if they had received, and we'd received one of the comments, emailed comments was that we've already got one here, and you know it kind of smells. So I'd asked her, and I'd asked Reno Code Enforcement in Washoe County, and we ever received a complaint. They've never received one. With that, she did say that that's when she brought up that is an older issue. We've never received a complaint. They have an older unit, and they're actually currently in to put in one of these new double burners.
Okay, and in the last couple of minutes, I'm hearing more and more that not just the city of Reno code enforcement or ordinances govern this facility. It sounds like also maybe Washoe County Air Quality governs it. So is there double inspections going on, and I'm lost for word. Go ahead, I'll stop there.
That's correct. Any crematorium has to be licensed by the county, district health, and air quality control. Their standards are not as stringent as ours. When the council, planning commission, and council adopted the expanded crematorium standards, they took it one step further and said, we don't want to know that it's here. You know, we don't want any visible indication or odor or audible indication. Washoe County also permits this. They have their own. They're looking at air quality and health standards that are different from Reno's, but they also have an enforcement capability.
Okay, and what is the enforcement? Are you aware of it?
They can withdraw their. They need to be licensed and they're inspected annually.
Okay, and then if they're found in violation at any time, what happens?
I can't comment on that. I
Okay.
didn't get that clarification.
Okay, all right.
But other than that, it's an annual inspection, and they would respond with inspections based on complaints.
Okay, all right. I have heard a rumor, and I talked to you about it this afternoon to find out if you could do any background, more investigation to it as what this property was used for previously through other businesses. Were you able to do any more background check to determine what some of the previous businesses were and confirm them?
I had spoken with a gentleman who grew up on that street. He was in opposition. He owns property across the street in a vacant lot. And I have been unable to confirm that what he had said.
Then let's not discuss it.
Okay.
If you could not confirm it, I don't want to bring it up. Thank you.
Okay.
No further questions. Is there any other questions from the commission? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, I will entertain discussion and/or a motion. Commissioner Romeo, you'd like to discuss?
Well, I'll get the discussion started. I know in '07, when we acted upon AT-16-07 and we tightened up these regulations, I thought it was a good thing for the city and a good thing for the residents. Strictly from a land use point of view, this type of use is allowed on the property that it is zoned for with a special use permit. And if we can make the findings for the special use permit, like it or not, we should be in support of it. I personally can make the findings. The only one I had any question with at all was F, and I am convinced that with the Health Department for Washoe County and with the new Reno Municipal Codes in Chapter 18.02, that the residents are covered. I didn't see a 24-hour application. I'm glad that was cleared up, that it's only going to be open from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So that having been said, and we've been here a long time, I will support this, and at the time I'm willing to make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Romeo. Commissioner Woosley?
To follow up on that, you know, if I was a resident in the area, I think I'd have the same reaction as everybody else, or most everybody else, saying, I'm not sure I want this in my neighborhood. But, you know, we had a lot of questions, and I think most of them were answered. And if I was a business owner and I had this type of business and I was looking for areas that I needed to go into, this would be one of those areas. And because of some of the other surrounding uses and what it's zoned for, I can make the findings. And I had problems with A and mainly F, but all those have been answered, and I can support this project.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Kaufman?
I can support this project. It definitely, I can make all the findings. And I think most of the concerns that we heard were about odor, that type of thing. And I think with the regulations, not only from Washoe but from the city, that makes it a viable business there.
Thank you. Commissioner Holton?
You know, I too can make the findings, and based on the discussion and how the applicant's been carrying themselves, I would hope that if there were additional unforeseen impacts or stressors, that he would be open to consultation with the neighbors and be willing to make further mitigations. So, you know, I can make the findings as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Stapleton?
Yeah, I had a lot of questions also about this when I first heard about it. I thought a crematorium had a lot of concerns. Some of those concerns we are asked to address in the findings that we are supposed to make for this. I think that it's been reviewed through staff has told us about the changes that were made to code in '07 about crematoriums that makes this an allowed use in this district. It is a downtown district, mixed use, and it's not residential. It's an allowed use as long as, you know, it comes before this body for oversight and we can make the findings. I can make the findings, especially the findings that concern me were finding A, is this use compatible with surrounding land uses? And there are surrounding land uses that are similar, and I believe it's compatible with the ones that are existing in the others that are existing in the neighborhood. Also, in terms of the historical concerns, location, scale, intensity, density, height, that's part of finding E. I think that addresses also the concerns that some folks had about the historical value of the neighborhood and whether this would fit with that. The building, it looks like from what the architect said, the building is going to be respectfully extended. The siding's going to be the same, and the historical attributes of the building will be preserved. So I was happy to hear that. And as other commissioners said, I also can see that that this would meet finding F, and I don't think it seems like it's going to create any adverse environmental impacts or smells or visual impacts. So I also can support this.
Thank you. Commissioner Egan, would you care to just?
You know, my major apprehension, I think all the findings, as most of you have agreed on F, have been met. My major issue was the last part of finding E, which is it appropriate to the area which it is located. And, you know, as Jeff Hollingsworth in the Neighborhood Advisory Board said, unless there's substantial support for the project from the neighbors, that it shouldn't go through. And so that's really the only roadblock I see here. But it's really hard to make that argument when there is a similar facility 750 feet away. So I also can make the finding.
Thank you very much. I concur with my fellow commissioners, and I can support this. I am a property owner adjacent to this historical district. I am just on the edge of it, on the outside edge of it. And there hasn't been any concerns with the existing facilities. This one will be newer, with newer equipment than what is existing. After my conversations with air quality today and doing some additional research, and therefore I believe it will fit into the neighborhood quite well. And so with that, I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Romeo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the case of LDC 11-00059, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the special use permit subject to conditions. I can make all the findings.
Thank you, Commissioner Romeo. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Woosley.
Thank you, Chair Weisky. I will second the motion, and I can make all the findings.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'm sorry, but we are closed to public comment. No, you can comment later under public comment. Thank you. With that, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck with your project.
Would you read
Now,
the appeal?
Thank you. You're welcome, Marilyn. Any action taken by the Planning Commission on a tentative map, special use permit, variance, or skyway is final unless appealed. Any person aggrieved by the decision may file an appeal. Each person or entity must make his, her, its own appeal. Appeals must be filed with the city clerk within 10 days of the Planning Commission hearing by submitting the appropriate form and fee. All other matters will be forwarded to the City Council with Planning Commission recommendation. Thank you. Next on our agenda this evening, number 3, LDC 11-00060, New York Pizza. If the applicant's representative will please come forward, introduce himself. You will have 15 minutes to describe your project.
Hi, good evening. Derek Wilson with Rubicon Design Group, representing the owner of New York Pizza. This is an existing restaurant in Reno on the corner of Moana and Kitsky, relocating to the Winco Center down on South Virginia Street. The owner didn't choose to move. He has to move due to a widening of Moana Lane, so he's going to lose part of his property, and he's going to relocate the restaurant. The technical reason why we're here is that we need a special use permit based on modifying the standards of the South Virginia Transit Corridor. That standard, the standard we're modifying calls for a 0.25 floor area ratio, size of the building compared to the size of the property. Based on what the owner understands as what his business can support, he needs to reduce that to a 0.14 FAR. And you can see from the the drawing, it's still a substantial building. This building that we're proposing is just over 4,400 square feet. His existing site is just over 2,000 square feet, I believe, maybe 2,200. So it's a significant step up for him. He just feels he absolutely cannot make the jump to a 0.25 FAR, which would be 7,700 square feet. That's a step too far for him and would probably jeopardize his business. So the code contains this provision exactly for this reason, to allow people to build things that are appropriate. I think it's a great site. It's the northwest corner lot of an existing commercial center. This is going to round out the center with a visible building. Right now, it's just an empty lot. It's a local architect. The owner and the architect have gone above and beyond a little bit with what I think is a great contemporary look. It's going to be visible on the street. The building is pushed up. This may be a little difficult. There we go. The building is pushed up to the street frontage in conformance with the transit corridor standards, and I think it gives a great look to the thing. Patio seating out here. They're adding some additional sidewalk on the north section of the property. And then we connect to the existing sidewalk with a walkway, and there's a bus station, a bus enclosure there. So I think it's a great use of an infill site. It's a local owner with a strong track record. I think he's excited about it, and he's put some more dollars into this than he really needs to. So we think it's an appropriate use, and I don't think there's any more I need to say for this.
Thank you, Derek. Staff? Nathan, before I ask you to start, disclosures from anybody, I did receive an email for this project in favor of.
I did.
Commissioner Kaufman?
I did also receive an email.
Commissioner Woosley?
I as well.
Commissioner Romeo?
Same.
Commissioner Stapleton?
Yes, I did also.
Commissioner Egan?
As well.
Commissioner Haltom?
I too did receive an email and have been known to enjoy a New York pizza, and I do not believe that will impact my ability to make the findings or not make the findings in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Haltom. Nathan, please.
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. We concur with the applicant's presentation. The Reno Municipal Code allows for reduction to the required 0.25 FAR. It's not a variance. We don't need a hardship. We just need to be able to make the findings for a special use permit. We're very pleased with what they've submitted and can make all the findings and recommend approval.
Thank you very much, Nathan. With that, I will open up public comment. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak forms?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak under this item, agenda item, who has not filled out a form but would like to speak? Hearing and seeing none, I will close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions and or a motion. Commissioner Egan?
Commissioner Egan, in the case LDC 11-00060, New York Pizza, based on compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the special use permit subject to conditions.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Stapleton.
I second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda this evening is item number 4, LDC 11-00057, Southeast Neighborhood Plan, Pioneer Parkway Holding Company. If the applicant's representative will come forward, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Melissa Lindell with Wood Rogers. I have Ted Erkin with me representing Pioneer Parkway Holding Company. This project site, as shown on the map, is 11.54 acres. It's located east of 395 and north of Geiger Grade. In terms of history, the site was recently acquired by Pioneer Parkway Holding Company, and they also own about 76 acres of the surrounding area in this Peach area. The idea and the goal has been that this property be incorporated into the existing PUD, so when the property is developed, all the development will fall under the same handbook and design requirements. This project has already been annexed to the city. You have already heard and approved a master plan amendment to change the master plan to the PUD Pioneer Parkway Holding Company designation, and this is our final step. So this will bring the zoning into conformance with the master plan and complete the process. This was presented to the Ward 2 South Reno NAB in June, and there were no concerns or comments, and we're in agreement with the staff recommendations. Finally, I'd be available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Staff. Once again, Nathan, before you get started, are there any disclosures? I did receive an email on this project. Any others? Commissioner Kaufman.
As did I.
Commissioner Woosley.
As did I.
Commissioner Romeo.
As did I.
Commissioner Stapleton. Oh, sorry.
I did.
Commissioner Egan.
I received an email.
Commissioner Halton.
I did too. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan, it's yours.
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. We concur with the applicant's presentation. This zoning, proposed zoning is consistent with the master plan. The applicant has also recently annexed the area. Staff can make the applicable findings and suggest that the Planning Commission recommend the City Council approve the request.
Thank you very much. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak forms as I open public comment?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak under this agenda item who has not filled out a request to speak form? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions, discussion, and or a motion. Commissioner Halton.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Halton. In the case of LDC 11-00057, Southeast Neighborhood Plan, Pioneer Parkway Holding Company zone change. Based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to recommend that the City Council approve the zoning map amendment by ordinance.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Egan.
I second the motion. I can make the finding.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Good luck. Next on our agenda this evening, item number 5, LDC 11-00061, Firehouse number 3 solar structure. The applicant's representative will come forward and introduce himself, please.
Good evening. I'm Jesse Jones, representing the applicant. I'm with Clean Path Ventures. Fire Station 3 solar system is a 36 kW fixed tilt ground mount photovoltaic array at Fire Station 3, including the installation of 156 Kyocera panels. The array includes the installation of DC string wiring for the modules to combiner boxes, underground DC electric wiring for the combiner boxes to 130 kW inverter, and an AC electrical wiring from the inverter to the existing electrical switchgear. The special use permit is required for non-residential development adjacent to a residentially zoned property. This is part of the City of Reno solar project that Clean Path Ventures won under RFP and is currently under construction.
Thank you very much. With that, I will ask for Nathan to come forward, please.
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. Staff can make all the applicable findings and recommends approval.
Thank you very much. With that, I will open public comment. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak forms?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on this agenda item that has not filled out a request to speak form? Hearing and seeing none, close public comment. Bring it back to the commission for questions, discussion. Commissioner Halton.
Question for, well, I'm going to ask the question first, and I'll see if the staff or applicant jumps up first. I'm going to jump right to the one concern we always seem to have with these, which is, can you explain to me in detail how those panels are oriented relative to the homes to the south on Sterling Point, and whether we've mitigated any potential for glare and that sort of stuff? Applicant.
Applicant.
Applicant wins.
Okay.
The applicant will reintroduce himself, please.
Jesse Jones with Clean Path Ventures. The Kyocera, and it doesn't say here, but the Kyocera 235 KD-LDP is a black polysilicon panel that is licensed and approved for use above and below, blue runway path on FAA, and is a non-glare panel. So you won't see any reflection off of it.
And how are they situated? Typically I end up seeing an elevation drawing, and I know that there's a step down from these from the fire station down to those houses. These panels pretty much, where do they sit relative to your eye level if you're on the second story or the balcony or the back house of these houses?
They're oriented due south, so I'll let Richard. Do you want to take it?
Wait a minute. I need you to come up to the microphone, please, and introduce yourself.
Richard Scott with Clean Path Owners Representative. It's a carport structure. It sits, the lowest in the paved elevation is 9 feet above the parking area. And that is probably close to 80 feet higher than the next resident down the hill. There's no way they'd be able to even see it.
Okay.
They're not visible to the naked eye on any ground level around it.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? Motion? Commissioner Stapleton? Push your button.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. Case number LDC 11-00061, Firehouse number 3 solar installation. Based on compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the special use permit.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Romeo?
I'll second that, and I can make the findings.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next on our agenda, item number 6, LDC 11-00062, Dick Taylor Park solar structure has been pulled because of a noticing error. It will be re-agendized at a future date. So we will then go to number 7, LDC 11-00063, Rosewood Lakes Golf Course solar structure. That has also been postponed. Next on the agenda is item number 8, LDC 11-00064, Firehouse number 11 solar structure. The applicant's representative will come forward and introduce himself again. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. Jesse Jones with Clean Path Ventures. Similar system this, to Fire Station 3 previously addressed. It's a 36 kW system at Fire Station 11. This is a ground mount system utilizing the same amount of panels and roughly the same square footage. It'll be the same technology, non-glare, and I will bring Richard up to answer your question on line of sight, I imagine you're going to have as well.
Thank you. Staff?
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. Staff can make all the applicable findings and recommends approval.
Thank you very much. With that, I will open public comment. Michelle, do we have anybody to speak on this agenda item?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. Anyone here this evening wish to speak on this agenda item who has not filled out a request to speak form? Hearing and seeing none, I close this agenda item and bring it back to the commission for questions, motion, discussion. Commissioner Kaufman.
Really, it's a comment, but I would really like to see an elevation as on the last fireplace or firehouse as this one also. I think that's an important aspect for us. All of the solar panels that have been presented before us, you know, we have some type of elevation, so we at least have a feel for it. So for the applicant and for Nathan, I think all the commissioners really would appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaufman. I feel that's a very fair request and statement. Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Haltom.
Commissioner Haltom, yeah, just to clarify and agree with Commissioner Kaufman, a cross-section showing the property line and the angle of the panels and the visibility, because all of our questions always have to do with glare and whether additional screening is required. And so it's a challenge to some degree here, and maybe you can produce a map and help clarify that. We always just need to make sure that we're not creating a visual nuisance for the neighbors, something that we can't mitigate quite simply. So with that, I'd like to have you come up and address our concerns. And then
Can you
also
state it
wanted...
in the form of a question, please?
Sure. Can you address the angle of the panels, how they're oriented, and whether we've got, and how they're screened from the neighboring properties? And then, just to clarify, I referred to a street that on the last issue, I was referring to Sterling Point, and that was the wrong map. That was the wrong firehouse. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record there, that I'm straight now. Thanks.
At this particular location, the solar arrays at a 15-degree angle, facing north, is surrounded by a 6-foot fence. The closest resident would be 350, 400 feet away. Actually, it's a business behind a fence. So there's a parking lot separating.
To clarify, I think you're talking about the last one now.
The last.
I think you're talking about the Firehouse 3, because this particular one, or is this
Firehouse 3?
Okay, this should be
We're now
Firehouse
discussing
11.
Firehouse number 11.
11, okay. 11 is the carport. The elevation is here on the, right here. The elevation from the ground and elevation in the back. It's 9 feet at the closest or lowest elevation point. The parking structure we're talking about.
Is that going on the roof of the fire station?
It's a carport. It's a
structure.
shaded carport.
And where on the map is that?
It's hard to see right down in through here.
Michelle, can you dim the lights just a little bit, please?
From here, this might be easier to see. You went back to the one off Mayan, correct?
Correct.
That's the one we're talking about. The other project's already done, closed, moved on.
So you can't see it, there are these marks right here, so there'll be a shade structure that's installed that will provide shaded parking for the use of the building.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
The carports will go right there. They'll provide shaded parking for the use of the building, and then the solar panels will go on top of the carports.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Commissioner Holtom, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think just to clarify here, that when we were speaking about the previous item, I think we were at cross purposes discussing confusing the two sites. So here it's a carport structure. It's
Correct.
oriented to the south. It sits up above the neighboring houses below, correct? To the south there, off the Sterling Point street that back up to this property.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, understood.
And for clarity, the previous project is the one that's behind a fence.
And
Let's not talk about the previous
Sorry,
project anymore.
sorry.
No, but
Everybody, that's done. Let's
Yeah.
get back on point.
Understood.
Let's talk about number 11.
Yeah, so this is not visible.
Okay. Commissioner Woosley?
Continued questions for the applicant? So in this, I mean, this is a perfect example, with out an elevation map, and you have single-family residence, to the south, which is where you're facing the panels. Just it would be really good to see how that would interfere. So you're verbally telling us this is 9 feet above. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And so even if you were in direct side of this, you shouldn't have glare from it anyways? Is that also what you're saying? Because these are FDA, are approved by the FAA?
Yeah, that's right. They're non-glare.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, commissioners? Motion? Commissioner Holtom?
Commissioner Haltom fumbled the button. Apologize. Mr. Chair, in the case of LDC 11-00064, Firehouse number 11, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the special use permit.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Egan.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Good luck with the project. Next on the agenda is item number 9, TXT 12-00001, Child Care Center text amendment. If we could have our applicant's representative come forward, please.
Good evening, Claudia Hansen, Community Development Department. Tonight before you on case number TXT 1201, the Child Care Center text amendment. This would allow child care centers to locate within the LLR zones, so LLR 2.5, LLR 1, LLR 0.5, as well as the SF15 zone with the approval of a special use permit. We have a number of uses, requests from the community, existing child care centers in these kind of medium to larger parcels. They have larger setbacks from adjoining properties. A lot of them are located on busier streets. There is a requirement already in code that they need to be on a collector or larger. Child care centers do need to be on a collector or larger. And any child care center in these zones would have to come back to you for a special use permit to establish in one of these zones. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
With that, I will open public comment. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak forms for this agenda item?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on this agenda item who has not filled out a request to speak form? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions and or discussion of Claudia. How about a motion? Commissioner Woosley.
Thank you, Chair Wyski. Case number TXT 12-00001, Child Care Center text amendment. Based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to recommend the City Council approve the text amendment by ordinance.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Stapleton? Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, I would like to take a 5-minute break, maybe a 7-minute break. We will be back at 5 minutes to 8 and re-adjourn and get into sign ordinances. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to call our commission meeting back to order, please. We will go on with our agenda item number 10, TXT 12-00003, sign code amendments. Is going to be held off for a minute. I am going to adjust the agenda. And we're going to take item number 12, which is TXT 12-00004, Adult Business Amendment. If Claudia, bring you forward, please.
Thank you. Good evening once again, Claudia Hansen, Community Development Department. This is an amendment to the adult business portion of adult business portion of the ordinance to sort of just modernize our code on the appeal process and the review portion of that ordinance. We do have a representative of the Reno Police Department here tonight who is going to give a brief presentation on the effects of adult businesses in the community. So I'm going to turn that over to him.
Thank you.
Good evening.
If you will introduce yourself, please.
I will. I am Scott Dugan. I'm a lieutenant with the Reno Police Department, currently assigned to the Regional Operations Division.
Welcome, Lieutenant.
Thank you. Okay, get oriented here. I'm going to talk about the essentially the secondary effects on the community as a result of adult businesses. And what I'm going to cover in the presentation is I'm going to start with some definitions just so that
Lieutenant,
you guys...
can I ask you just
yes.
to pause for 1 second? Michelle, can we bring the house lights down just a little bit? There you go. Go ahead, Lieutenant. Please carry on.
You bet. I'm going to talk about some definitions so we understand about some of the phrases or understand the meanings behind the phrases that I'll be using. I'll refer to at least 3 different case studies. I'll talk about a working group and its findings that is specific to adult businesses. And then I'll cover briefly off-site businesses specifically in research and a case study that's, again, specific to off-site businesses. As far as definitions go, when I refer to sexually oriented businesses, that is including but not limited to bookstores, cabarets, theaters, coin-operated video viewing booths. With respect to adverse secondary effects, it would include ambient noise, blight, and in particular crime. Again, not limited to those definitions, but including those. Off-site would be a merchandise sold at a business that is for use at a different location. And then on-site would be adult entertainment, which would be experienced at that business location. The first case study, and again, I'm going to go into several of them just to kind of give you an overall picture at the general trends across the country. The first case study that I'll refer to is from Minneapolis. It was commissioned by or actually conducted by the Crime Prevention Center in 1980, and they examined the effects of sex-oriented and alcohol-oriented adult entertainment on property values and crime rates. I'm going to speak specific to the crime rates because that's my area of expertise. With respect to that, the study concluded overall, and I'm just going to get right to the point, that the effects on the crime rate index were positive and significant, or are positive and significant. They are associated with higher crime rates, and the addition of one sexually oriented business to an area will cause an increase in the overall crime rate by 9.15 crimes per 1,000 people per year, even if all other social factors remain unchanged. And they did factor in some control variables such as neighborhoods with the same mean income in this study. The second study is from the city of Indianapolis. In 1984, they studied the relationship between sexually oriented businesses and crime rates. And they concluded that major crimes occurred at a rate of 23% higher in areas with sexually oriented businesses. Major crimes would include homicide, rape, robbery, assault, burglary, and larceny. And then sex crimes or sex-related crimes occurred at a rate 77% higher in areas with sexually oriented businesses. And sex crimes would be rape, indecent exposure, and child molestation. The third study is from Phoenix. It was actually conducted by the Phoenix Planning Department in 1979. And they compared 3 areas with sexually oriented businesses and 3 with similar demographics and land use, but no sexually oriented businesses. And in its conclusion, it found that arrests for sex crimes and location of sexually oriented businesses were directly related, that property crimes were 43% higher, the sex crime rate was 500% higher, and the area with the greatest concentration of sexually oriented businesses had a sex crimes rate over 11 times as large. And that was seemed to be a consistent finding that the concentration of the sexual-oriented businesses had an impact on the overall crime rate. In other words, the higher the concentration, the higher the rate. And then in 1989, the Minnesota Attorney General formed a working group on the regulation of sexually oriented businesses to assist public officials and private citizens in finding legal ways to reduce impacts of sexually oriented businesses. And they had residents from neighborhoods come in and provide testimonials. And I've included this slide to kind of give you an idea of how these crimes manifest themselves in the communities. And some of the things that they brought up were the items listed here. So you have an increase in observed discarded pornographic material, used condoms, open sex acts, prostitution, thefts from Johns, which are the people that seek prostitutes, assaults on prostitutes themselves, and harassment of residents in the area, as well as proposition of the residents, whether it's women, girls, men, and boys, all seem to be affected by the propositioning. And if you notice, the three different studies that I referred to are larger cities. This working group looked at, or at least discussed, in part, the impact of these sexual-oriented businesses on smaller cities. They looked at some of the cities that were outside the Twin Cities area or region, and they spoke specifically with the chiefs of police. And essentially, they concluded that sexual-oriented businesses located, the ones that they have were in non-residential areas, and they showed no evidence of increased crime rates in the adjacent areas around the sexual-oriented businesses, and there was no information that they had on the impact of property values. And then I have a case study that's very specific to the off-site businesses, which I defined for you earlier. And in this example, in 2004, a business called Dr. John's opened up in Sioux City. It was the third such business in that community. There were already two adult businesses. But Dr. John's didn't have any viewing booths, and they were in a newer part of town, and their business had more subdued signage, not the typical flashing lights, triple X type signage that you might see with some of the other types of businesses. And even still, they found that, and I conclude here, or conclude the conclusion here, police reports of incidents occurring within 500 feet of Dr. John's were compared to police reports in a control area. I believe they used a motel in a similar area to compare that to. And the annual crime rate overall in the area surrounding Dr. John's rose from 7.8 to 22.4 incidents after the establishment opened, an increase of 190%, compared to a more modest increase in the control area of 25%. And then just a little bit more on the off-site businesses. I wanted to include here kind of a reference to a prevailing criminological theory about secondary effects derived from routine activities theory. Basically, what they found in this study, or what they came up with in this theory, is that routine activity at adult business sites attracts predators. And basically, what they're saying is they look at the proportionate number of targets weighted by their value and inversely proportionate to police presence. And essentially, predators target victims who they perceive to be of a high value, and they speculate here that the reason that they target people that are customers of these types of businesses is, one, they tend to carry cash as opposed to using credit cards. Also, they're less likely to report the crime because they're involved in a perceived deviant behavior. And when I say report the crime, that includes involving the police. So you might have less reporting of that type of, or those types of incidents around those types of businesses as a result, which is the reason for the kind of that predatory theory. And that's essentially it. This is my contact information. If there are any questions, certainly that I can't answer now, I can respond to later. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant Dugan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Claudia?
So that is overview, reminders of why we continue to regulate the adult businesses in Title 18. Also attached to your staff report are a list of the locations, potential locations where adult businesses could currently locate based on zoning.
Claudia, 1 second. Michelle, can we bring the lights back up, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Claudia.
Okay. The list of locations where they could potentially locate, there's still spacing criteria that we didn't put into the list, but those are pretty, for the most part, it's all of the areas where they could locate, where the zoning is appropriate, but doesn't meet the zoning spacing criteria. And Nathan has put up a map here. So you can see them there around the airport and up in the Stead area. So those are the maps of the two locations, or the two areas where they could locate. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed text amendment with the changes outlined in the memo that I passed out on page 8. For this sentence should read, should remove contrary to the public peace, health, safety, or general welfare. On page 10, 1808-202B1J should remove for signs on the end of that sentence, because that was a little confusing there since it's not regulating signs. And then there's just some formatting issues on bolding headings of sentences. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
With that, I will open. Wait, no, I'm not going to
sorry.
open anything yet. I'm going to wait for Nathan.
Nathan Gilbert, Associate Planner. I just wanted to clarify that I handed out before the meeting a slightly modified list. The list that was included in your staff report of the parcels was the original mapping done in 2006. And what this map represents here and what I handed out to you is about 149 parcels. So as Claudia had mentioned, this is just a tentative analysis, but I did want to let you know that what I handed out had modified that original staff report.
Thank you, Nathan. With that, I will open public comment. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak for us?
No, we do not.
Thank you. With that, is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on this agenda item who has not filled out a request to speak for him? Hearing and seeing none, close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions and or discussion. Motion. Commissioner Haltom.
Mr. Chairman, the case of text amendment 12-00004, adult businesses amendment. Based upon compliance of the applicable findings, I move to recommend that the City Council approve the text amendment as modified by the memorandum that we received tonight by ordinance.
Okay, and you did include the memo.
I did include the memo, and yes, I can make the applicable findings.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second, Commissioner Romeo?
I'll second that. I also can make the findings.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next on our agenda will be item number 10, TXT 12-00003, sign code amendments. Welcome back, Claudia.
Just a moment, please.
While we are waiting, are there any disclosures from commissioners? No? Commissioner Haltom?
I'm going to make this disclosure, and it probably stands for both items 10 and 11. But I have received a number of emails and letters on these two items, specifically here, number 10. But then I also wanted to disclose that I am a real estate agent. I routinely use signs in my business. Additionally, as an agent, I have an independent contractor agreement with a local brokerage. That brokerage does have a contract with a major billboard company for advertising. And but it's clear that I do not stand to benefit or be harmed any more than the next real estate agent or anybody else that were to contract with these sign companies for business.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Egan?
I'd like to make the same disclosure as a commercial real estate broker. I contract with these companies, engage in the same sorts of, I guess, signage-related activities.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I, too, as a general contractor, partner in a general construction company here in Reno, use signs on our projects, but will not be financially, what do I want to say? Help me, Marilyn, please. Impacted, thank you, by this, by any of the text amendments noted tonight. And therefore, after speaking with our legal department, can remain unbiased and open to my decision-making. With that, Claudia? Oh, you want to do something? Commissioner Romeo?
Well, you skipped right over me.
Oh, sorry.
I guess since we've been discussing this, I've probably met with several concerned parties and had phone conversations and exchanged emails with just about everybody that's been involved in this over the last several years. So I guess that's a blanket disclosure, but that's the only way I can think of doing it without spending a half an hour.
Thank you. Claudia.
Once again, Claudia Hansen, Community Development Department. Before you, you have an amendment to our sign code ordinance. It's redundant, sorry, sign ordinance. And there are numerous changes, as you will see. I would like to thank everybody who has submitted comments, corrections, pointed out our typos, and we appreciate all of that. For that, we have, I've prepared a memo outlining a number of corrections on various pages. I've passed that out to the members in the audience, and you all have a copy of that memo as well. This is really, the essence of this is really just to modernize our code, to clear up some inconsistencies, and really just to modernize it is the main purpose of this. I'm not going to get into too many details. I'm not really going to get into any details on this, but you do have their proposed changes to the ordinance that was originally passed out, and I am available for questions, clarifications, anything like that at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
With that, I will open public comment, and I have 2 requests to speak forms for this agenda item. First up is Jennifer Capurro. After Jennifer will be Aaron West. Jennifer, you will have 3 minutes if you will introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jennifer Capurro, Vice Chair of the Reno Sparks Association of Realtors Legislative Committee. We wish to thank the city staff and particularly Deputy City Attorney Marilyn Craig for listening to our concerns and attempting to work with us. We understand that our perspective is narrow as we look at how the language and application of the ordinance will impact our particular industry. We also understand that the ordinance must be written in a manner that has wide applications and implications. Realtors have a great interest in assuring proper use of the signs as our ability to sell property rests on being able to get interested buyers to look at the property. We make every effort to educate and encourage our member realtors to obey the sign ordinances. It's just good business, though we are not always successful. We appreciate the recommendation to change the height limitations from 30 inches to 54 inches. That will allow for variations in the style of signs based on our franchise needs and business models. We have some concerns regarding some of the language, particularly in the limitation of using A-frame signs on right-of-ways. We typically call these open house signs, the A-frame signs, limiting it to only Saturdays and Sundays, where especially in this down and difficult market, our members must use all of their efforts to represent their clients in selling their home. A lot of times realtors do an open house tour on a Wednesday morning or Thursday afternoon to try to get realtors and other interested buyers to look at the properties. You, as one of our clients, would expect to know less. Open house opportunities provide that extra measure that may be of use. We would ask you to consider expanding those days. Always with, as written in the ordinance right now, with the permission of the adjacent private property owner. And then also, particularly in commercial, addressing that none of the signs will be up for over 24 months. Particularly in commercial real estate, properties will be on the market for longer than 24 months. And in this market, a lot of our short sales and foreclosed properties are also on the market for over 24 months, and we need adequate time to market those properties and sell them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Aaron? If you will please introduce yourself, you will also have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. For the record, Aaron West with Clear Channel Outdoor. Just wanted to come tonight and actually speak in support of the work that staff and especially Marilyn Craig has done on this. Specifically to Article 9, dealing with the off-premise advertising displays. I believe there is some ambiguity within some of the current language, and I believe what's been proposed as far as tightening up the expiration periods associated with the banked receipts, as we've all come to refer to them, I believe is an improvement. And so with that, in support.
Thank you, Aaron. Those are the only 2 requests to speak forms I have. Is there anyone else here this evening who would like to speak, who has not filled out a form? Please come forward, introduce yourself, and after you have made your statements, if you would please fill out a form, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. John Madole, representing the Associated General Contractors. I just became aware of this a few days ago, but I just wonder if we're kind of getting down in the weeds on the square footages of these signs. I mean, you've got a residential where you're saying 16 feet. Sometimes you're required to put up a sign saying you're doing dust control and this is the number to call. You may have some other signs. I think perhaps you're getting a little bit, I didn't have time to check all the regulatory problems, but I suspect that there's a possibility that you could be directed, maybe by the health department and others, to put up certain signs of certain sizes, and then you're going to find yourself afoul of a Reno ordinance that says you can't have signs of a certain size. Sometimes I get a little kind of a feeling that when we start on these things, we get so enamored with what we're doing that maybe we don't think about the unintended consequences. So I guess I would just suggest that you might want to exercise some caution. These numbers look pretty small here. If a guy's doing something on my house and there's a little dust control on a small lot, you've got a sign up there, somebody else says, hey, I'm repairing the roof, another guy says, I'm the plumber. You start adding up these square footages, I think you're going to be in violation of this ordinance. I just think maybe you ought to take a close look at this.
Thank you, Mr. Madole. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak under this agenda item? Hearing and seeing none, I will close public comment. At this time, I would also like to make another disclosure, and I didn't realize that Mr. Madole was here to speak, but I am on the board of directors of the Associated General Contractors. It will not and does not create any bias on my opinion, as it has not been brought forward to the board of directors. I had no idea the AGC would even be here this evening. So thank you. With that, I will bring it back to the commission for questions and discussion. Commissioner Haltom.
Claudia, quick question for you. Did I understand Ms. Capurro made 2 requests for additional changes? One would be to allow the temporary A-frame signs on the right-of-way for days outside the weekend, and also to maybe lift the 24-month maximum time period for a sign. Do you see any objections to making those changes, or could those changes be incorporated easily at this time without creating additional conflict?
Staff would recommend keeping it to the weekends, and on the 24-month issue, after the 24-month, they can always use their permanent sign criteria and go to a permanent sign. I was just looking at 24 months is we felt to be a reasonable time to use the temporary signage. At that point, we would like to see it go to a permanent sign to be more in character of the area.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Claudia, I have questions for you.
Okay.
We talk about signs in residential areas, and when in commercial, a commercial building is allowed X amount of square feet of exterior signage based upon a formula that is provided for the size of a building, correct?
Correct. Typically business frontage.
business frontage.
Typically.
Okay. We don't necessarily think of signage for residential unless, I guess, a condo complex or apartments. But we have on page 11 allowed temporary signage for residential. Now, and I know that we don't discriminate between residential and commercial signage being that sells something, I guess. What it says, one temporary sign not item 2A2 on page 11 says one temporary sign not exceeding 6 square feet, provided the sign is removed within 15 days from sale, lease, rental of the property within 7 days or within 7 days of completion of any construction and remodeling. Does that affect political signage, or is political signage different than signage for sale, lease, rental? Because I think if there's an apartment or a complex, a condo complex, multiple people may want to put up their preference for political races.
Correct, and we wouldn't make any comments about what they were putting on those temporary signs, whether it's for real estate or political or any non-commercial speech or commercial speech. We wouldn't regulate that at all. We wouldn't look at the content.
What about
we would if you look at 2A1, that does discuss a certain amount of square footage allowed around elections. And then 2A2 does discuss a certain amount of signage allowed around the time of real estate or construction projects.
So if you're in a condo complex and there's multiple units available for sale, lease, rent, whatever, would this be limiting the amount of signage, or is it per address, or is it per building?
Marilyn Craig, Deputy City Attorney. State law controls condominiums and where their residents can put their particular signage. We don't control that through this particular ordinance. That's controlled by state law for condos.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that. And then my question in part B of that on page 11 is construction signage, to where, as Mr. Madole commented, contractors of projects are obligated to put up certain signage for dust control, water runoff, no trespassing possibly, hard hat zones. It's a possibility of multiple signs for multiple gates for access for deliveries and or union, non-union agreements and projects. What is, I mean, what kind of variable is there here? What am I missing in this, in what's written here that's possibly in the memo that would allow for more footage?
One item that we did add in there, we had it one per business frontage and then a second if it's on a corner. The issue is if it's a through lot or if the project takes up a whole block. We did change that in here, where it's for each street frontage.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it quickly, but it's the 1, 2, 3, fourth up from the bottom. On the memo, it is to add that same square footage for each street frontage. So if there's multiple street frontages, you would have that same square footage on each one.
Okay. And also then, during construction, at time of construction, if I understand you right, the building frontage sign area, whatever's allowed for the building upon completion, can be used for signage square footage during construction? for those additional signs, is that correct?
Correct. If the regular sign isn't up already, you can only use
Right,
it
if
once.
the regular sign on the building's not up and it
Right.
allows for 100 square
Correct.
feet, then you start with 100 square feet of signage you could put out on fences, gates, whatever, advertising the site, and then still come back to additional signage, which is what I'm discussing down under paragraph B. Because then you could add
Correct.
to it.
Mhm. Correct.
Okay, all right. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Haltom.
One last question, Claudia. Something like a new home complex for a builder, how is that treated? Which portions of this code would affect them? Like a new home sales complex for a residential community? Is that temporary on?
Like if a full subdivision is
Correct. Like when you
selling
open a
homes, it would fall
like a
under the
model
temporary-
complex.
temporary signage.
Temporary signage. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
And there's the permanent signage also that you can do in residential if it's advertising the development as a whole. You could, so it's either temporary or permanent, but they would fall under the temporary if it's just there
Like
for,
a
during
grand
sales
opening
or
banner
something.
or
Yeah.
something like
Mhm,
that.
That'd be
Okay,
under
perfect.
temporary.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Commissioner Stapleton, sorry.
Is your microphone on?
Blue light.
Blue.
Somebody share a mic.
Can you hear me now?
There it is.
There we go.
There it is. Blue light. On page 20, the notes to the table that it's regulation by zoning district. And
Yes.
note 12, and it's I think in regards to the mixed use district. Can you explain the change from special use permit to site plan review?
That's to expedite the process of the review process of the site plan review. That is, a site plan review is still noticed to 750 feet, and that can be appealed. So it's the same public notice process. We mail out the postcards, post the site. It is done administratively, and that can be appealed. And that would go to, I believe it's city council, but I'd have to check on that. I'm not sure.
So it just means it wouldn't come before
Correct.
planning commission.
Right.
So that's
But it can be appealed to a public hearing.
So that's in the instance in mixed-use districts. Hold on, flashing signs, and then the exception are not allowed, except that the note says they are permitted on those certain parcels, North Virginia, South Virginia, or certain corridors, it looks like. And then any other, so this means any other street in a mixed-use district, a flashing or animated sign is allowed with a site plan review
Correct.
instead of a special use permit.
Correct.
Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Romeo?
I just have one on trailer-mounted signs. Is this covered anywhere in here where you see?
As a mobile sign, like when you would see driving down the street?
No, they're parked in front of lots and businesses.
That would be a temporary sign. It could potentially be an off-premise advertising, depending on
What
what
if
the
it's
trailer.
not-
There's a lot of variables there, so it could
What if
fall
it ne-
under a lot
what
of
if it
different
never
issues.
moves?
Well, it depends on
How
if it never
long?
moves. It's going to become a. We'd have to look at it. Looking at that as an independent scenario, it would be hard. It could be on-prem, it could be off-prem, it could be temporary, it could be permanent, depending on how it's structured.
All right,
Commissioner
thank-
Romeo, can I
Okay.
piggyback on that real quick?
Certainly.
What if somebody were to take a flatbed trailer and erect signs on it and park it on the street, not on private property, where street parking is allowed and it's advertising business or whatever? Is that covered in here? Would that be temporary signs? How do we deal with that?
I see Marilyn leaning forward.
Marilyn? Your mic's off.
Good gravy. That generally is not covered under this particular ordinance because we don't regulate the signs that are on the sides of trucks and panel trucks and all those kind of things. Now, if it becomes permanent or it's sitting there for a long period of time, it may be in violation of the parking ordinance for staying over 24 hours or 48 hours in a particular location. Sometimes you will see old vehicles that have signs painted on the side and then they're parked someplace and they got cobwebs on them and flat tires and a variety of other things. Those tend to be looked at as signs because they have been there for such a period of time. It doesn't change anything because they have four wheels under them or doesn't have, but we don't tend to regulate signage on vehicles that drive up and down the street.
But what if it's a non-motorized vehicle, such as a trailer? There's a business here in town that tows a trailer to their front of their business in the morning, parks it on a major street, unhooks from it, and then hooks it back up to it at the end of the day and goes off, and it's advertising their business in the shopping center.
Mm-hmm. Code enforcement would look at that, see how long they do that, track that behavior, and see what's going on there. And in fact, if it's being used as a sign on a public right-of-way, then they may take action against that. And that would, again, if it's exceeding the temporary or it's not improperly use of the public right-of-way, then that would be cited or could be cited.
Okay, and that could fall under then what has been proposed tonight as temporary signage in a public right-of-way?
Well, it's way too big, because remember, the size of something that can go into the public right-of-way is very small.
Right. But it could be covered under, it is in,
Well, it'd have to be an awfully small one,
right.
you know.
Okay. I believe we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
And primarily, those that we're talking about, the going in the public right-of-way, are in residential. It sounded to me like your example was something that was located in commercial or mixed use or some other type of zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Woosley.
Question for staff. On the 24-month temporary signage, is there a way that someone can then renew that, or is it a one-time or 24 months only? Or say they haven't sold a property, they took it off for sale for 6 months, and then put that property up for sale or advertising it?
It would be a one-time 24-month item. There are options from that. They could go and use their permanent signage at that point. So at one point it's the temporary sign, and then after 24 months, we felt that was a reasonable time that you need to start using the permanent sign criteria for the area. They could always apply for a variance on the time. That is always an option. And I'm not sure if that would be supported or not, but that they could apply for it.
Right. And I was just wondering, because say you were in a neighborhood or residential and you had a sign that was being conceived as a nuisance, and they took it down every 6 months just for temporarily and then put it back up. And they say, well, my 6 months or my time starts again. It's not consecutive. And I was just wondering if things like that would be possibly an issue in the future.
We would have to look at that. We may need to clarify that section. Specifically if it's the one time or if it needs to be down and goes back up. We can look at clarifying that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Marilyn Craig, those kind of things are going to be, if the code goes out, remember those are event driven. So if they take their property off the market for a period of time, then that could in fact break that and they could start it up again. So because it's event driven, if a person presented their contract to have it through a particular realty saying, you know, they wanted to put it on the market, it'd been on the market for 6 or 8 months, which sometimes properties are, then they take it off for 6 months, then they decide to put it back on, that could well restart that process. If it becomes an abusive thing, then we're going to have to change the code and address that. One thing that local government is entitled to do is to experiment. You try and give as much opportunity, but if it becomes an abuse system, then we have to address it. But until it's in fact abused, there's no reason to try and tie down every little possible thing that can occur. But most people are honest and fair and straightforward. We want to start with that presumption.
Great. Thank you for the explanation.
Any further questions? Any discussions? How about a motion? Commissioner Woosley.
In case number TXT 12-00003, sign code amendments. Based on the compliance with the Apple findings, I move to recommend that City Council approve the text amendment by ordinance.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Kaufman.
I'll second
Mr.
that
Chair.
motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussions?
To clarify, does that include the amended changes in the memorandum from
Thank
Claudia?
you.
Yes, please include the memorandum included to us, dated August 3rd, 2011.
Does the second also include the amendments?
It certainly does.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaufman. Any further discussion? I have a comment that I would like to make real quick, and that is a thank you to staff, to legal, to general public that has given input. This is taken a little while, well worth it, and I think it's very thorough, and it's in the betterment and looking forward for the betterment of the city of Reno. So thank you very much. With that, I will. Oh, now you would like to have some time, Mr. Commissioner Romeo? Go ahead.
Well, I think that the industry's been very helpful with getting this done, and I want to thank them for that. And I also want to point out this is not a set in concrete document. If we come across issues that may or may not be a concern to one party or the other down the road, we can always remodify this amendment too later. I think we're trying to tighten it up right now, but if something we've done today is pointed out to be somewhat onerous in the future, we can always make that correction. So keep checking on us and keep checking on what we're doing, because I'm sure that we may find something in here that we may have to correct.
Thank you. Any further comments? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, item number 11, TXT 12-00005, billboard moratorium. Welcome back, Claudia.
Thank you. Claudia Hansen, Community Development Department. On June 29th of this year, City Council adopted Resolution 7611 to reject applications for off-premise advertising displays. This is the follow-up ordinance on that resolution, and staff supports this ordinance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, I will open public comment. Michelle, do we have any requests to speak forms?
No, we do not.
Okay. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on this agenda item who has not filled out a request to speak form? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment, bring it back to the commission for questions, discussion, or a motion. Commissioner Halton.
Just wanted to touch on disclosures and reiterate the same disclosures that stood on item 10 for me. Can I do that, Marilyn, or are you going to repeat that disclosure in its entirety?
I think you made it clear, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Egan.
I make the same disclosures as the last agenda item.
Commissioner Weisky, I too. Thank you. And Commissioner Romeo, I won't miss you this time, I promise.
Same.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, questions, discussion, motion. Commissioner Romeo.
Mr. Chairman, case of TXT 12-00005, based on compliance with the applicable findings, I move to recommend that City Council approve the text amendment by ordinance, and I can make any findings that need to be made.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Halton.
Commissioner Haltom, I too can make the findings, second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Liaison Report. We did not have a meeting last month. We did have a meeting last month. We do. Right. We do not have a meeting this month in August, and we will set elections where Commissioner Romeo was voted in as Vice Chair of the Regional Planning Commission. behind Chairman Tom Lean from the City of Sparks Planning Department. So very good. Congratulations, Commissioner Romeo. We will meet again next month in September for regional. Next, item number 10, staff announcements. Claudia, you get 1 through 4. Go ahead. Go right through them.
Claudia Hanson, Community Development Department. We are working on rescheduling the workshop, and because of everybody's busy summer schedules, it looks like that's going to the middle of September, and we're still working on that date, and we will get that worked out and let you all know when we can get you all in one place at one time. I don't have any new training opportunities other than the online venue. I don't think there's any outstanding staff direction. And I don't believe I have any updates on council items either.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioners' suggestions for future agenda items. Hearing and seeing none. Public comment, item number 12. This public comment item is to allow the public to provide general public comment and not for comment on individual action items contained on this agenda. Michelle, do we have request to speak form? Lori Ray, welcome. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Lori Ray with Scenic Nevada. I was at the office and I was watching your commission meeting earlier on, and throughout I kept noticing that you all get emails. And I was wondering if it would be possible if I could give you a piece of paper, and for our membership's benefit, if you could put your emails down or telephone numbers so that you could be contacted by our membership as well. Is that possible?
Our city numbers are available through staff?
Yes, through Michelle Fournier.
Yes. So contact Michelle Fournier.
No, I was asking for your personal emails. I noticed that you got personal emails, and that's what I'm asking about.
Those are forwarded to us through Michelle Fournier.
Is that correct?
Through staff, yes. We
Sorry,
do not
I
get them directly from
misunderstood.
anybody.
That's correct.
We get them forwarded through Reno staff.
Okay, because just to clarify, a couple of years ago, we were in some hearings, and we sent emails to Claudia regarding a billboard issue, and they were not submitted with your packet, and we copied them ourselves personally and made packets for each of the commissioners so that you could all get the emails that we had, wanted to speak to you about. So if it's true that we can just give them to Michelle or Claudia to Michelle.
Forward them to Michelle, to Claudia, and then they will be forwarded to us.
All right, which is the
including packets of information.
All right, how about which email address then is, if we send out a blast to our membership, what is the email
Claudia, would you
address?
like to answer that, please?
FOURNIERM@reno.gov.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Lori.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify there, I think you also need to make the request that correspondence be shared with the Planning Commission directly, correct? I mean, I don't necessarily think we all need to or want to be on every correspondence going back and forth from every advocacy group supporting every item.
Wait a second. Before we go any farther, public comments are not action items in Maryland. Should we allow this conversation to go on further?
Good point.
Or should we agendize it?
I think you should agendize it for a future meeting so that you can have a full discussion regarding it. You've
Okay.
had the request, and so then if you'll just agendize it, then everybody can come and listen to it.
Commissioner Haltom, I
Perfect.
would like you to make that request and officially, because I think it warrants further discussion, please.
Going back to item 11, recommendation for future agenda items, I would think we ought to discuss that further. I think that email may be a form of communication that we need to address in more detail in terms of how we receive those, especially from proponents or opponents to agendized items.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm sure it will be put on our next agenda item. Thank you, Lori. Any other public comment this evening? Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment and will accept a motion for adjournment. Commissioner Romeo moves to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We're done.